Well, we were talking to Ken here as you're in the man Ken Cartwright. He took on the federal communication dudes and he won. And that was pretty fantastic. So this is what you're going to be seeing now is Ken winning and boasting about it. So take it away, Ken.
For 2 years, we've had a low-power AM station in Staten operating at 100 milliwatts, which is 1/10 of a watt. Not a lot of power. Worse, I mean, smaller than a gnat, not as dangerous as a mosquito. 2 days later, a fella comes into my shop, and he said, "Are you Ken Cartwright?" I said, "Yes." He hands me his card. I thought he was going to shake my hand, but instead he hands me a card. He says, "My name is Ben Din from the FCC field office in Vancouver, Washington," and he starts in on this tirade about my radio station overpowering and it's illegal, and he demanded to see where the transmitter was. I was just not prepared for this at all. And I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. I'm what?" He said, "I did a field strength meter reading up at Burnett and 3rd Avenue, and you're reading this amount of field strength meter." And I said, "Well, first of all, part 15.219, there's no field strength meter reading issue. This station complies to 15.219. "Oh, no, it doesn't. We read this under .209. I said, "No. I said, that's not right at all." "Well, I demand to see your transmitter. You show me your transmitter." So I took him out back. I have a 40-foot tower behind the workshop, and up on top of the tower is this little cigar box, gray cigar box with a CB whip antenna on top of it, and that's our transmitter. But it's legal. I bought it from Keith Hamilton in North Carolina, and he had all of his transmitters certified by the FCC under 15.219, so I knew I was legal. And he said, "So, prove to me that that's 100 milliwatts. And I said, "Well, you climb yourself right up there and prove it to yourself." He said, "Well, I'm not going to climb that tower." And I said, "Well, then how are you going to prove it?" He said, "Well, the field strength meter reading." I said, "You're crazy. This doesn't fall under the category of 209. 209 is the law that FCC uses to regulate garage door openers, remote controls, and cordless telephones." And he said, "Yep, that's right. And you're over wattage." I said, No, I am not." And I said, "Now I got to ask you, who complained?" "Well, nobody." I said, "Whose signal or frequency am I interfering with?" "No one." I said, "Okay. So nobody complained, and I'm not interfering with anybody's signal, and I know I'm at 100 milliwatts, and I know that your field strength meter reading is not applicable to this situation. So is the issue that I'm broadcasting 14 blocks instead of 4 blocks? Is that what the problem is?" "Well, you're illegal." And I said, "Is that the issue?" "Well, in a word, yes." I said, "Okay, all right. So how is it that you showed up here?" He said, "Well, there was an article in the Oregonian." I said, "Oh. So you decided to come down here and bust on a little country boy, is that right?" "Well, you're illegal." And I said, "I'm not illegal." He said, "Well, I demand that you turn your transmitter off." And I said, "Well, that's unreasonable, and I'm not going to do it. So what I need to find out is, what is it going to take for me to be compliant in your eyes?" He said, "Well, the problem that you have is," and he looked up at the transmitter and he said, "your ground lead is connected to the tower." I said, "That's right. In case there's a lightning strike, the ground from the transmitter goes to the tower, which is grounded at the bottom." He said, "Well, the law says, .219 says that the ground can't be any more than 3 feet long. And if you have it connected to the 40-foot tower, that's 43 feet long." I said, "Oh, good Lord." He said, "Well, that's it. that's it. You have to disconnect your ground. I said, or bring my antenna down to the ground within 3 feet and connect it. Yep, yep. And you have to make sure that it doesn't exceed these limits for the field strength meter. I said, so let me get this straight. If I brought the transmitter to the ground within 3 feet and hooked it up, I would be compliant with the ground issue. Right. I said, or if I left it up on the tower and cut the ground off so there was no ground and retuned the antenna, that would be okay. He thought about that. He said, yeah, knowing that I wouldn't get any range out of the transmitter. I said, well, I need to think about this because I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. You caught me off guard. I just got my business open for the day. I didn't expect you. You didn't call and tell me you were coming. Well, we never do. And I said, yeah, I see that. So I need some time. He said, well, how much do you need? And I said, well, 60 days. He said, nope, that's unreasonable. I said, well, then what is reasonable? 30? He said, yeah, 30 days. I said, okay. So I'll have a solution within 30 days. I was stalling. I needed some time to think about this. So after he left, I stewed for 3 or 4 days. And I thought, oh man, I've worked so hard. I put so much money into this community radio station that now I get some 500-pound gorilla from the FCC coming down and telling me I'm going 8 blocks more than I should. This is ridiculous. And I really stewed about it. So I called the manufacturer of the transmitter and told him, and he's dealt with this issue in the past, and he began giving me some advice about people to contact in the FCC, and he suggested if you had any political connections in the state, you might want to appeal to them. Well, it just so happens that Fritz Graham is Senator Wyden's aide, and Fritz is from Staten, and I know the Grahams pretty well. So I called Fritz and I told him what was going on, and he couldn't believe it. And he listens to the station quite a bit when he's out of the area because that's how he gets his hometown news. And he likes the music. He just likes the folksy aspect of the station. So he promised me that he would gather some more information and he would talk to Senator Wyden and see if there was something that they could do. So in the meantime, I thought, I need to put some pressure on the FCC. This is ridiculous. Because they wouldn't answer my calls. They wouldn't take my calls directly and talk to me about this inspector or this issue. So I called Katie Muldoon back at the Oregonian. I said, Katie, this is Ken Cartwright. She goes, well, congratulations. How was the wedding? And I said, great, but got a problem. I said, you told me when you did this story if I was ready for all the publicity, and I thought I was. But you also told me there was a possibility that it could bring some negative things, and I said it just surfaced, and I got to tell you what happened. So I told her the story of the FCC, and she couldn't believe it. I said, would you look into this maybe and do a follow-up story about the wedding present he gave us? She said, yeah. She said, that's a good angle. So she did. She called Ben Thin,